Okay, example 1 on section 8.3, we're going to find x. You'll notice first off, this is a right triangle. I want you guys to be aware, anytime you see a right angle in a triangle, that immediately certain properties come into play, certain facts happen. So, first property of any triangle is the three angles always add up to 180 regardless. So if this is 90, there's 90 left over for the other two angles. They're both always acute. The other property that happens quite often in Pythagorean, or I should say in a right triangle, is the Pythagorean theorem. Now, the two sides making the right angle are called legs. So 15 is a leg, 8 is a leg. The third side, the one opposite from the right angle, so the right angle, you'll cross the triangle, which is opposite, that's called the hypotenuse. Okay, and you don't have to focus so much on the word hypotenuse, that's the name of it, but I'd be more concerned that you're able to do the problem as opposed to knowing the actual vocabulary here. But just know that the hypotenuse is the one across, the legs are the ones that make the right angle. And the Pythagorean theorem states that if you take any leg squared plus the other leg squared, it equals the hypotenuse squared. Okay. That is the Pythagorean theorem. Previous math books you may have seen would say a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I'm not so fond of that formula because it doesn't specify what is what. There's an assumption that c is the hypotenuse, but there's not set in stone in that formula. So I prefer writing it this way. So I have three pieces here, 8, 15, and x. 8 and 15 are both legs. So 8 squared plus 15 squared is equal to x squared. First thing I want to point out, you cannot drop the squares off of these numbers. You have to square them to evaluate x. Right? It's tempting, you see everything has a square, and say, well, let's just drop all the squares off. That's illegal. So, 8 times 8 is 64. Use a calculator as necessary. 15 times 15 is 225. Again, calculator is necessary. And if 64 plus 225 equals x squared, then 289 equals x squared. And that's the step you're going to get to in every Pythagorean theorem problem. You're going to get letter squared equals number. When you get to this point, the task is to take the square root of both sides. The square root of x squared is x. The square root of 289 is going to be the answer. Again, use a calculator as necessary to evaluate. X is going to equal 17. There are no units on this triangle, so I don't have to put units on my answer. But again, if units are in your problem, you should put units in your answer. So the missing side here is 17. Now, one quick check on a Pythagorean theorem problem. The hypotenuse is supposed to be the longest side. If you do it wrong, you'll get the hypotenuse either shorter than it's supposed to be or a leg longer than it's supposed to be. So the fact that x is the hypotenuse and 17 is bigger than both 8 and 15 tells me that's the right answer to this problem.